The Galactic Council chamber was filled with voices that day, each alien leader speaking louder than the other. Their words echoed through the steel halls, sharp with blame and fear, yet not one of them looked toward the human delegation seated at the far end. For years, humanity had sat in silence, swallowing insult after insult, accused of being reckless savages, blamed for wars they had not started, and treated as if their patience had no limit. The humans had come into the galactic fold late, for later than most empires. They had fought through plagues, starved through winters, and built their ships from scrap while others enjoyed shining fleets. When they finally stood among the stars, many thought humans would bend, that they would follow quietly, but instead, they listened, they watched, and they waited. On that day, the waiting was coming to an end. A young council speaker from the Serenth Alliance slammed his skilled hand on the table. The humans must be contained. Their colonies expand too quickly. They take resources without asking. Their kind has no respect for order. His voice hissed through sharp teeth, his golden eyes burning with contempt. Others joined in agreement. The Koth, or ambassador, a towering beast with tusks that curved upward like spears, growled, "Yes, they are too many. They spread like weeds. If left unchecked, they will consume the galaxy." The human representative, Admiral Marcus Hale, said nothing. He had listened to these same words for decades. His hair had turned gray in the years of waiting, but his eyes remained steady. Behind him, younger officers shifted in their seats, restless. Their patience was thinner, their anger closer to the surface. Then, without warning, a projection appeared in the chamber. It was a report. A colony burned to ash, not by pirates, not by accident, but by fleets bearing council banners. The name of the colony glowed in bright letters. Eden's Reach. It was one of Earth's oldest colonies. Farmers, children, families gone. The chamber grew quiet, but not with guilt. Instead, a dozen alien voices spoke at once, trying to justify it. Necessary action. A warning for the balance of peace. Their words were knives dressed in silk. Admiral Hale stood, his chair scraping against the floor. He placed both hands on the table, and the room hushed. His voice was calm, colder than the steel walls around them. For 50 years, humanity has endured your words. For 50 years, we have watched as you tested us. You told yourselves our silence was weakness, that our patience had no end, that we would never fight back. He leaned forward, his eyes locking on the alien leaders one by one. But patience, like all things, has limits. The silence grew heavier. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others sneered, still unafraid. Then Hale pressed a button on the small console before him. Across the chamber, every screen lit up. A fleet appeared, not alien, not council-owned, but human. Ship after ship, stretching into the black. Battle cruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers. Their hulls were not sleek or polished like the council's ships. They were built like hammers, iron and fire forged into war. This, Hale said, his voice still steady, is what patience buys. Decades of insults, decades of being ignored, decades of preparing while you thought we slept. Gasps filled the room. Some delegates shouted in denial. Others demanded the images be shut down. But the human fleet was real. It was already moving, already fueled, already armed. One alien, trembling, whispered what others feared to say aloud. They waited. Too long, the Koth four-tusked ambassador roared, slamming his fist on the table. This is a threat. You dare bring war to the council chamber? Hale's eyes, hard as stone, turned to him. No, he said. You brought war to us when you burned Eden's Reach. You wanted to see what happens when humanity loses its patience. You will see soon enough. The room erupted in chaos. Some demanded sanctions. Others screamed for fleets to be mobilized. But the humans had already left their seats, walking out with steady steps, not running, not pleading, simply leaving because the choice had already been made. For the first time in centuries, fear swept the council chamber, not the fear of pirates or rival empires, but the fear of a single word whispered in every corner of the galaxy. Humans. And the galaxy would soon remember them forever. Asterisk the human fleet moved like a shadow across the void. Silent but unstoppable, dozens of dreadnoughts, carriers, and escort frigates swept out of hidden docks scattered across the solar system and beyond. They were not polished, not elegant, but every line of steel spoke of purpose. Every cannon hummed with readiness. For years, the galaxy had mocked human industry as crude and refined. Yet what they saw now was not weakness. It was power forged in silence. Across the galaxy, transmissions flared. Alien commanders barked orders to mobilize. Council fleets scrambled from their docks. Panic spread faster than light, because no one had ever expected humans to rise with such force. In the council chamber, chaos still reigned. The Serent delegate shouted, his golden eyes wide with fury. They dare challenge us, crush them now before their madness spreads. But others hesitated. The holograms of the human fleet had burned into their minds. It was larger than expected, far larger. One elder counselor whispered to another, How did they build so much without us knowing? The truth was simple. While the other empires wasted centuries in politics and rivalry, humans had learned something different. They had known scarcity, famine, and war on their own world. They knew how to work without rest, how to fight with little, and how to endure when others would have fallen. For half a century, they had built their fleet in silence, waiting. On the bridge of the Inns Resolute, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the stars slide past. His officers stood ready at their stations, eyes sharp, movements crisp. Hale had fought wars before, but this was different. This was not about territory. This was not about profit. This was about survival, about dignity, about showing the galaxy that patience did not mean weakness. Status? Hale asked, all fleets reporting in, answered Captain Arya Vance. Her voice steady though her hands gripped the console tightly. She was young compared to Hale, yet she carried the same fire. 75 ships in strike formation, another 100 on reserve. Civilian colonies secured, supply lines hidden and strong. Hale gave a single nod. It was enough. Humanity was ready. Far away. In the Koth or home system, the Tusk ambassador's words turned into reality. Council fleets were ordered to intercept the humans. Thousands of alien warships formed a line across the stars, engines burning, weapons charged. Their commanders laughed bitterly, thinking humans could not match them. They believed numbers alone would be enough. But they had not fought humans before. The first clash came near a barren world with no name. Alien ships surged forward, energy beams flashing across space. The humans did not scatter. They advanced. Their weapons roared, not sleek energy, but mass-driven cannons and railguns, flinging fire and steel at near light speed. Alien shields cracked, hulls split, and ships that had ruled for centuries suddenly broke apart under relentless fire. Target destroyed. An officer announced aboard the Resolute. The crew did not cheer. They only pressed forward. Across the battlefield, alien captains shouted in disbelief. Their weapons, they cut through us like nothing. One cried. It was not just weapons. It was will. Humans fought as if every life lost at Eden's reach was carved into their hearts. They fought like people who had endured centuries of struggle, who had waited too long to remain silent. Hours later, the battle was over. Wrecks drifted through the void, most of them alien. Human ships bore scars, but the line had held. Humanity had not only stood, they had struck back, and the galaxy was watching. Back in the council chamber, silence gripped the delegates as the reports poured in. The Serent hissed in denial. The Koth roared in outrage, but behind their fury was fear. For the first time, they realized something terrible. Humanity had not snapped blindly. Humanity had prepared, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The battlefield near the barren world still burned with drifting wreckage when the news reached the council. Holographic screens flickered to life in the chamber, showing images of shattered alien warships, their hulks glowing as they spun through the void. Human ships stood in formation, scarred but unbroken, engines burning like torches against the dark. The delegates stared in disbelief. For centuries, their fleets had been feared. For centuries, they had been the ones who dictated terms. And yet, The humans have faced them head-on and lived. More than that, the humans had won. The Surrent delegate slammed his clawed hand on a table. This is unacceptable. Humanity cannot be allowed to defy us. Mobilize every fleet. Burn them before their fire spreads. The four-tusked ambassador bared his fangs, voice booming. Yes, they must be crushed. Every system they hold must be purged. But not every counselor agreed. A soft, careful voice rose from the far side of the chamber. It belonged to Lady Ranger of the Lumari, a pale-skinned alien whose people were old and cautious. Her silver eyes glowed faintly as she spoke. And what if they cannot be crushed? You saw the battle reports. You saw how they fought. Humanity did not rise in haste. They rose with preparation. If we commit to war, we may ignite something none of us can control. The chamber erupted in arguments, voices clashing like steel. Some demanded war, others pleaded for diplomacy. The council, once united in arrogance, now fractured. Fear crept in, though few dared admit it aloud. Admiral Hale watched these arguments unfold through hidden feeds. In a secure chamber aboard the Resolute, he and his commanders studied every council transmission. The galaxy thought of humans as reckless brutes. But in truth, every step had been calculated. Every ship built in silence, every weapon tested in shadow, every move timed for the moment when patience ended. Captain Arya Vance stood beside Hale, her arms folded, eyes sharp. They're divided, she said. Half of them scream for our blood. The other half tremble at the thought. If we push harder, they might tear themselves apart. Hale nodded slowly. Fear spreads faster than war, but we cannot wait for their decision. The longer they argue, the more fleets they will gather. We strike again, and we strike where it matters most. A hollow map shimmered before them, glowing with star systems. Hale's finger pointed to a cluster of worlds heavy with trade routes and supply stations, the lifeblood of the council. We don't need to destroy their fleets, he said. We need to show them that their empires are fragile, that every system they thought untouchable can burn if they push us further. The commanders exchanged grim looks, but none objected. They understood. Humanity was not fighting for conquest. They were fighting for memory, for a lesson the galaxy would never forget. While Hale planned, the council chamber spiraled deeper into chaos. The Serenth and Koth roared for immediate retaliation, but Lady Aranger's words spread in whispers to other factions. What if humans could not be stopped? What if striking them harder only brought ruin upon everyone? Already, merchants spoke in hushed tones of closing routes near human space. Already, border colonies trembled, fearing retribution. Finally, the council leader, an ancient being whose voice had ruled for centuries, raised his hand. The chamber fell silent. His words were heavy with age and warning. You believe humans are weak because they endured. You were wrong. Now, you believe they can be crushed like insects. You may be wrong again. Consider what it means if we are. Consider what it means if patience was their greatest weapon. The words hung in the air like a shadow. And far away, the human fleet prepared to strike its next blow, not with hesitation, not with mercy, but with the weight of every insult carried for too long. The galaxy's trade lanes had always been a symbol of power. Fleets from every empire patrolled them, keeping goods flowing, keeping colonies alive, keeping the illusion that the council controlled everything. That illusion shattered when the humans struck. The first attack came at the Run Passage, a choke point of stations and fuel depots used by half the council's empires. The alien captains stationed their expected pirates, maybe smugglers. They did not expect the Resolute and her battle group to emerge from warp. The human ships wasted no time. Railguns thundered. Torpedoes streaked through the void. Stations that had stood for centuries burned in minutes. Admiral Hale stood at the bridge window, eyes fixed on the devastation. He felt no triumph, only grim certainty. Send the message, he ordered. A transmission went out across the system. Carry on every channel. Hale's voice, steady and cold, reached every alien ear. You burned Eden's reach. You thought patience was weakness. Now you will learn what patience was buying. Every world you hold, every station you guard, every fleet you command, you hold them only because we allow it. Push further, and we will take them from you." The words spread like fire in marketplaces across alien worlds. Traders froze as the human warning echoed through the air. In military academies, cadets stared at each other in silence. In the council chamber, delegates hissed, roared, and argued with renewed fury. The Suren slammed his claw against the desk. "Terrorists, they dare strike the lifelines of the galaxy. We must unite now." But Lady Arandra's silver eyes glowed faintly as she replied, her voice calm. "Terrorists do not build fleets like this. Terrorists do not warn before they strike again. This is war, and it is not one we can win as easily as you pretend." The four-tusked ambassador growled deep in his chest. "Then what? Surrender to them? Bow to these upstarts?" Rindra did not flinch. "No, but perhaps we listen before the galaxy burns to ash." The chamber broke again into chaos. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the U.N.S. Iron Will, Captain Arya Vance oversaw the destruction of another supply line. Alien freighters floated crippled, their escorts in ruins. She turned to her crew, her voice quiet but firm. "We are not here for slaughter. We are here to make them see. We show them their strength is brittle. We show them that humanity will not be broken again." The crew nodded, their faces grim. They carried the same weight: anger for Eden's reach, anger for every insult swallowed too long. This was not conquest. This was vengeance with purpose. Reports flowed back to Hale. 3 supply routes shattered, 2 stations abandoned before humans even arrived, entire sectors closing off trade rather than risk the wrath of humanity's fleet. Fear was spreading faster than their guns could fire. But Hale knew it would not last forever. The council would gather. They would rally their scattered fleets. When they did, the storm would be unlike anything humanity had faced. As he studied the map, Captain Vance approached. "We've lit the fire. The galaxy knows our patience is gone. What comes next?" Hale's jaw tightened. He looked at the glowing council worlds at the heart of the map, still untouched. "Next," he said, "we remind them that no world is too far, no throne to save." They wanted to test humanity's patience. Now they will learn what it means when patience ends. And with those words, humanity's fleets turned deeper into council space, carrying with them a lesson that would burn across the stars. The council finally moved. After weeks of shouting and division, the factions that demanded war gathered their fleets. From the Strength Core worlds came legions of sleek cruisers with skilled hulls that shimmered like gold. From the Thor armories surged wave after wave of tusked war beasts, massive carriers shaped like predators. Dozens of other empires contributed what they could. Together, they formed a force so vast the council believed it could crush anything. Their target was simple: humanity's forward fleet. The humans had struck supply lines, shattered stations, and spread fear. The council wanted to end it all in one blow. Admiral Marcus Hale knew it was coming. He stood on the bridge of the Inns resolute, watching the glowing maps display enemy movements. Red icons multiplied across the star chart until they nearly covered it. Even for him, the sight was daunting. "They're bringing everything," Captain Arya Vance said quietly. Her hands tightened on the console as she scanned the incoming reports. "It looks like half the galaxy is moving." Hale nodded once. His face showed no fear, only grim resolve. "Good, let them come. The louder they roar, the more silence we'll leave when they fall." The humans had never expected to win through sheer numbers. They had built their fleets for precision, for endurance, for striking where it mattered most. Against the council's countless ships, they would not stand by brute strength. They would stand by strategy. The trap was already prepared. When the first wave of council ships dropped out of warp, they found not a human fleet waiting in open battle, but silence, empty stars, debris fields left behind like ghosts. Confusion spread among the alien commanders. Where were the humans? Then the ambush began. From behind asteroids, from darkened moons, from cloaked stations hidden in the dust, human ships emerged. Railguns fired, torpedoes streaked, and council cruisers exploded before they could even form lines. The ambush tore through the first wave like knives through fabric, and the resolute, Hale's voice cut through the din of battle. "Strike hard, then fade. Don't waste ships. make them fear shadows. And so the humans vanished as quickly as they struck, jumping away before the council could bring their overwhelming numbers to bear. Again and again, the pattern repeated. The council fleet surged forward, only to be bled piece by piece. The humans fought like predators, vanishing into darkness, striking where shields were weakest. But it was not without cost. Each ambush burned fuel and ammunition. Human ships bore scars deeper with every fight. Crews fought exhaustion as much as they fought enemies. On the bridge of the Un's iron will, Captain Vance leaned heavily on the railing, sweat beading her brow as her ship limped from another battle. Hull breaches sealed, wounded carried to med bays, engineers working without sleep. She whispered under her breath, "We can't hold forever." Hale knew the same truth. Humanity had struck harder than anyone thought possible. But the council had endless numbers. Patience had built humanity's strength. But now patience would be tested again. How long could they endure against the weight of the galaxy? Back in the council chamber, the delegates raged as reports of losses streamed in. The Serenth delegate hissed with venom. "Cowards! They hide in shadows. They refuse honorable battle." Lady Arandra's silver eyes glowed faintly as she whispered to those around her. "Perhaps they are not cowards. Perhaps they are teaching us what it feels like to be prey." The words unsettled even the boldest among them. Dot in the void. Hale stood before the stars, his voice low as he spoke to himself. "You wanted to see humanity break. You will see instead how humanity endures." And so the war deepened, the galaxy shaken as one truth became clearer with every clash. Patience was no longer humanity's weapon. Now it was survival. The war dragged on. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. Each council fleet set against the humans returned in fragments. If they returned at all, ambushes haunted the trade lanes. Colonies whispered of ghost fleets striking and vanishing. Human ships did not linger to claim victory. They left wreckage and silence. Still, the council pressed forward. They had numbers, endless numbers. Where one fleet fell, another took its place. The weight of the galaxy bore down on humanity, pushing harder with every passing day. On the Inn's Resolute, Admiral Marcus Hale studied the reports. Ammunition dwindling, crews exhausted, hulls patched more times than they should endure. He read them all in silence. His jaw set. Captain Arya Vance stood nearby, her voice quiet, but edged with worry. "We're holding them back, sir. But every victory costs us. If this keeps up, we'll bleed dry before the dew." Hale didn't answer at once. He turned to the star map, watching the red markers spread like a tide. "They think time is theirs," he finally said. "But time is what taught us patience. Time is what forged us. They will learn that no species can outlast us." Even as he spoke, the cost of that patience showed. In the med bay, doctors worked without pause. Young officers, many barely out of training, carried scars from endless battle. Sleep was a luxury, yet none complained, none faltered. The memory of Eden's reach burned deep. The next great clash came at the Selvari corridor, a narrow passage of stars that connected 3 major trade routes. If the council could secure it, they could strangle human supply lines. If the humans held it, the war would remain balanced. When the fleets met, the stars lit with fire. Council ships filled the void, their energy weapons blazing, their shields glowing with color. Human ships moved between them like wolves among herds, railguns cracking, torpedoes punching through hulls. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Captain Vance barked orders. "Target their carriers, cripple their supply ships." Her crew responded with sharp precision, railgun rounds tearing into the belly of a massive Serenth cruiser. The alien ship exploded, fragments scattering into the void. But the enemy numbers did not break. For every ship destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. The Iron Will shook under heavy fire, alarms blaring. Sparks rained from broken panels. Engineers shouted through smoke as they scrambled to keep the ship alive, shields failing. An officer cried, "Hold." Vance roared, gripping the console as if sheer will would keep the ship intact. Across the battlefield, Admiral Hale's Resolute cut through the chaos, its guns firing relentlessly. Hale's voice was calm as he gave orders, even as enemy ships swarmed. Do not break formation. Every second we hold is another second they remember who we are. The battle raged for hours. By the time the last council ships pulled back, the corridor was littered with wreckage. Hundreds of alien vessels floated lifeless. Dozens of human ships burned, too, their crews lost to the void. When silence returned, Hale stood on his bridge, weary but unbowed. His eyes scanned the battlefield of drifting corpses and shattered steel. Humanity had held again, at a cost. Back in the council chamber, panic spread. Reports of losses poured in faster than excuses could be made. The Serent delegate hissed with fury, demanding more fleets, more fire. The Kothor snarled for blood, but Lady Arandra's soft words cut through the noise once more. You believe humans fight for conquest. You are wrong. They fight for memory. They fight for survival, and survival is not something you can crush with numbers. Her words unsettled many. Though pride silenced their tongues in the void, Hale whispered to himself. His voice meant only for the stars. Patience built us, pain forged us, and now the galaxy will learn endurance is our greatest weapon. The Selvari corridor lay silent, filled with drifting wreckage and the echo of screams long gone. Humanity had held the line once again, but both sides knew the war was reaching its breaking point. The council poured in more fleets, their resources vast, their pride refusing to bend. Yet whispers spread across the stars. Whispers that perhaps the humans could not be beaten, that perhaps they had been underestimated too long. Admiral Marcus Hale stood in the war room of the Inn's Resolute, his eyes fixed on the hollow map of council space. His face was lined with exhaustion, but his voice was steady. They will not stop. They will throw fleets at us until the stars run dry. If we fight them battle for battle, we will be buried. So we don't fight battles. We strike at their hearts. Captain Arya Vance, standing beside him, frowned. Their hearts, you mean? Their homeworlds? Hale nodded slowly. We've shown them we can fight. We've shown them we can endure. Now, we show them we can reach places they thought untouchable. The room went quiet. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. To strike supply lines was one thing. To strike core worlds was another. But they all understood the truth here. Not numbers, was humanity's greatest weapon now. The target was chosen, the Serent home system, proud, arrogant, and loudest in calling for humanity's destruction. If they were humbled, the rest of the council would tremble. The human fleet moved like ghosts, slipping past patrols, vanishing from sensors, masking their signatures with tricks born from desperation and ingenuity. By the time the Serent realized what was happening, it was too late. The skies above their gleaming capital were lit with fire. Human dreadnoughts emerged from warp, railguns and torpedoes screaming as they tore through planetary defense stations. The Serent fleet scrambled in panic, but their lines broke within minutes. Human weapons ripped holes in ships that had once inspired fear across the galaxy. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Captain Vance gave sharp orders as her guns targeted one of the grand orbital towers. The structure cracked into the bridge, its glowing spires tumbling into the atmosphere below. Flames lit the skies of the Serent capital as debris rained down. The humans did not bombard cities. They did not slaughter civilians. Their message was sharp, precise, and unforgettable. We can reach you. We can burn what you thought safe. Admiral Hale's transmission echoed across every Serent channel, his voice calm, but heavy with iron. This is the price of your arrogance. You believed patience was weakness. You believed silence was surrender. Now you see what patience was preparing. We do not seek your extinction, but if you push further, know this: no throne, no palace, no world will be beyond our reach. The galaxy froze. For the first time in memory, a council core world had been struck, and not by rivals, not by rebellion, but by humans. Back in the council chamber, the Serent delegate's golden eyes burned with rage as he shouted, "Unforgivable! They dare humiliate us at our heart! Gather everything, burn them from the stars!" But his words were hollow. Even his allies stared in silence. They had seen the fire rain upon the Serent capital. They had seen humanity's reach, and in their silence, fear grew. Lady Ranger spoke, her voice soft yet carrying across the chamber. They are not asking for conquest. They are asking to be left in peace. You mock their patience. Now you tremble at their entrance. Ask yourselves how many more worlds will you risk before the galaxy lies in ruins. Her words hung like a blade dot in the void. Hale watched the Serenth system burn, then gave the order. Enough, pull back. His fleet vanished into the dark, leaving the Serenth broken and the galaxy shaken and across the stars. The memory of that strike carved itself into history. Asterisk, the Serenth homeworld still smoldered when the galaxy realized the war could not continue as before. For the first time, the Invincible Council had been struck where it hurt most. Their fleets were powerful, their numbers endless, but the humans had shown something the galaxy had never faced: in yielding will and reach that pierced to the core of empires. The council chamber filled with shouting again. But this time the rage was thinner. Beneath it lay fear. Delegates argued, but no one could deny what they had seen. Even the proudest empires knew the truth. If humanity could strike Serenth, they could strike anyone. The Koth-4 ambassador roared, tusks gleaming under the lights. We cannot bow to these savages. To yield is to invite our own downfall. But Lady Ranger of the Lumari answered softly, her silver eyes glowing in the dim chamber. To continue is to burn the galaxy to ash. Do you not see it? They fight with patience, with survival itself. No empire can match that. The chamber fell quiet. For the first time, no one interrupted her. Far away, Admiral Marcus Hale stood aboard the Inn's Resolute, staring out at the stars. His fleet floated silent, scarred and weary, but unbroken. The war had taken lives, torn ships apart, and stretched humanity to its limits. Yet the fleet still stood. Humanity still stood. Captain Arya Vance approached him, exhaustion written across her face. They'll come again. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next year. They'll never forget this. Hale nodded, his eyes never leaving the void. Good, let them remember. Fear will last longer than any battle. Not long after, a transmission came. It was not a declaration of surrender, nor a victory. It was a negotiation. The council, fractured and shaken, offered what they had refused for decades: recognition. Human colonies would be left untouched. Human fleets would patrol their own space without interference. And most importantly, no species would again question their place at the council table. The terms were not written in triumph, but in survival. Every empire understood pushing humanity further would only end with more worlds burning. Hale accepted, not with pride, but with solemnity. Humanity had not fought for conquest. They had not fought for crowns or thrones. They had fought because patience had ended, because silence had been mistaken for weakness too long. When word spread, whispers turned to legend. Traders spoke of human fleets rising from shadows. Soldiers told stories of railguns that split ships in half. Civilians repeated the words of Admiral Hale until they were etched into memory. Patience has limits. Generations later, children across the galaxy would learn the tale. In alien schools, younglings would hear the warning that patience was not the same as weakness. On human worlds, monuments rose with the names of the fallen carved deep, reminders of what had been endured and what had been won. In the council chamber, even the proud Serenth delegate lowered his eyes whenever humanity's seat was filled. The Koth-4 no longer roared in arrogance when speaking of humans, and Lady Arandra's words became prophecy. They fight for memory, they fight for survival. Admiral Hale, long after the war, walked alone on the quiet fields of Aden's Reach, rebuilt from ashes. Families lived there again. Children ran through green valleys where only black ruin had once remained. He listened to their laughter, to the hum of life returned, and only then did he allow himself the faintest smile. Humanity had waited too long. Humanity had snapped, and the galaxy still remembered.